You fall down. What do you say? What do you say? Break a bow?
I got my bow repaired not too long ago, and I was in a rehearsal with Marissa, and as I was playing one of the chords, the bow got like stuck on like the little curve of my instrument, and it practically exploded. Like, I think it was like 15 to 20 hairs just exploded off of that bow. It was crazy. I'm not too bad at that. Well, I was just saying that, I mean, I know that everybody, or it sounds different. I was upset that I paid $75 for the bow. It sounds terrible. I can't do anything about it. I mean, you could just stand up there and show with the bow if you want to. Wouldn't make a difference.
All right, I'm going to ask you to take one off the top so you don't touch it. And delivery. You just want to keep the surface, so I'm going to get
Extra, we all got it.
Here's Guido. Another one. Oops. There you go. All right. One more. Hey, would you two each take one of these, one each on the top of it? Welcome. You feeling better, Nick?
Yes, a lot better.
Like your hair.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, you do. And you do too. You're listening to Dave right there. And Brian, where do I have another face? Right over there. Here you go. All right. So I have to do a little show and tell to our folks out there in the audience. Make sure I've got everybody. Good morning, people who are online and in the studio. What I'm going to start with today are some materials that could be useful for developing intonation and pitch awareness in your choir. And I have at various times used these things here at ISU. And I know some high school and upper elementary, junior high level choral people that have done so in their classrooms as well. And basically this is a series, we have the 2 volumes of the series by James Jordan and Mahaffey, who are the editors and the authors of this series. And there is it's published by GIA, I think, yeah, GIA. And along with it, and I have it up in my office, I forgot to bring it down, is a teacher's manual. So there's a method by which it's suggested that you take your students through and use these materials. And what they're designed to do, and we're going to kind of sink through a few of them, but they're based upon the concept that you're going to teach solfege. And the concept is that you're going to be doing some reading in solfege and just an awareness of both using the syllables and eventually with the goal that a choir can read in 4 parts in solfege so that everybody's, of course, on their own part and reading it that way. And then that your singers become aware and somewhat able to read modal music. So not just major and minor, but it goes through the church mode. And how to recognize them, how to, Maggie and Emma, would you come up here and each take one of these 3 right here? Good morning. I like your hair too. Big deal. So where we are is I'm introducing these 2 volumes here as choral sight reading and intonation materials. So anyway, one of the volumes is about modality, and so let's look at that one first. So the modal exercises. Some of you that are in concert choir, I've used several of these as warm-ups. And you'll recognize the first one in D flat major. And what I like about them is that they're not, there you go. I know it's backwards, but if you're...
It's actually not backwards.
Oh, isn't it? It is to me. Okay. Ryan, Bree, and Faith, we've sung this before. When it goes through all the church modes, you'll notice that the next one's Aeolian, which is natural minor, Dorian, etc. But what they provide are really quite beautiful melodies that simply immerse the singers into the mode. And what I like about them besides that, well, they're beautiful melodies, and 2, they have accompaniment parts. You don't have to use them, but they are quite nice. The piano accompaniments really support the singing, and it's just good old unison singing. So if you go through and you just kind of thumb through all of it, every single one of these is for the choir in unison. So it really has limitless use for just about any group. And so what do these sound like? Well, that's one of them. And the way, some of you, I don't know, because I have about 100 of these in the choral library, 100 of each set. And so some of them have been used and some of them haven't, and I don't know if yours has, but you might see some solfeggio syllables written inside some of them. Because what we did sometimes is I would let them write some solfege syllables, and we'd sing through these melodies in solfege. And then they would erase them, or we would start, some of yours probably have maybe they were allowed do, mi, and sol in the melody, and nothing else could be written in. So there's lots of ways to use this. It's limitless. And it's really up to you, or me, or whomever, how you want to use them. Once the singers get acclimated, okay, Ionian's easy, right? Or fairly easy. We're very used to what essentially is major in our major-minor system. But the further field we go from Ionian past Aeolian, it gets less, as you get into the Lydian mode and some of the other ones, they're, just not our normal, especially I think in vocal music. Vocal music doesn't encounter, like some of the jazz playing that some of you have done, very modal bass music, and some of the scales church music requires, old church music, classical church music from the Renaissance and early Baroque. Then we encounter some of the church modes, and that's where they come from, of course. So what we have is that it's unusual, right? What do you notice right out of the gates with the time signature? It's not in a symmetrical meter. So not only do your singers have to acclimate to the singing of the melody, but they can't take for granted to just kind of show off on the subdivision of the counting. And so everything is just a little bit more, they have to be on a little bit more. So what we do is we tonicize, and I'd like you to sing, as I fall flat on my face, I'd like you to sing, do you see these? Okay, and just sing this solfeggio syllable, sing. Do, mi, sol, re, do, sol, la, ti, do, re, do. Yeah, everybody here's going, here we again in the morning. But we acclimate our singers to that, and then we sing. So we have tonicized the D flat, and now we're going to try to sing. I'm going to start with you on the measure that you come in on measure 3, and let's just sing about that tempo, and we'll use a D on every oop. So that you can articulate. So about 1, 2, 3, 4, sing. Breath. 2, 3, off. Go on. And that's as far as we'll go. We don't have to go on past that. But there are the next pitch then is it's an octave higher, so they'll be able to reason that out. But it's not easy in terms of it's just up by scale or maybe 1/3 or something. The descending patterns, which is I think where a lot of our sight reading needs to be improved, you're forced to read those descending patterns in this. And so I think it's very, 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 very useful. So now we'll do the same thing, and let's just read them as you see it, meaning ooh without the doo, doo, doo. And I'm not going to take that tempo, don't worry, that 144, but we'll go a little faster. So about 1, 2, 3, 4, about that way, and I'm going to play the accompaniment while you sing ooh. Here we go. 4, 5. No, I'm starting at the very beginning. 4, 5. Let's just try a little faster. I don't think we could sing that whole thing, but let's start right where you come in this time, on measure 3, and about And try those phrase marks that you see. Ready, and go. So you see what I mean? It's quite lovely melody, and it's not something. Oh, that doesn't sound like a typical sight singing. And that's what I think that one of the strengths of this series is that they have worked to make it like real music. And so after you use it for siphoning or after you use it for acclimation to the mode, you can use it as a warm-up. Because like I said, it's a beautiful melody and it makes people think. Because if you start on a Monday morning with your choir at 8 a.m. like we're doing, and you have 5, 4, it's just a good way to start. Oh, hello, here we are. And so if you turn the page, then we have the same kind of a treatment. Go a little fast, but I'm just playing the accompaniment. And again, we're confronted with something that's quite imaginative and not, just kind of run of the mill. And then you have to decide, because I was raised on movable dough. I think that's what they teach here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know I was raised on numbers too, but when I learned solfege, it was movable dough. And but I was not raised on fa minor. And so, don't they teach fa minor here? I mean law minor. Law minor, how about that? Do they teach law minor? Do they teach re minor? I'm just kidding. But I was just taught, we moved the dough to, in this case, we would move it to the G. Is that how you're taught here?
Mostly.
Okay. But I think it probably depends on who's teaching the theory at the time.
Yeah, and if somebody in the classroom uses law-based minor, they'll try and include it more. But
Okay. But anyway, so that's a choice that you would make as an instructor. Are you going to teach minor that way so that you can still use the solfeggio system? And so I wouldn't, but that's they cover that in this little teacher's book as well. The advantages of law-based minor and the disadvantages, and you can do it both ways. So let's just try to sing this a little bit. And let's just sing it as you're going to read it. But I'm going to start at the beginning. So that's one aspect. Let's look at the other, which is intonation exercises requires. And there's no reason to, and I'm going to show our folks at home, this is the first exercise in this intonation exercise for choir. And basically what it is we would direct all the singers to sing the unison line at the top. And as you can see, each line is meant to be a separate exercise, so there are 3 exercises here. E major, and then D major without a key signature, because it starts and ends on a D major. So what your students are shown is having to listen and see with accidentals what kind of key center it's in without the key signature, which is more like, late 20th, early 21st century music. Lots of composers use the palette of nothing on the key signature, and then they charge it with the accidentals. So it's that idea. And so many of you know that when you play an ensemble or sing an ensemble music, a single pitch sounds and feels completely different depending upon what member of a particular chord it is. And that's what this is supposed to get everybody's ears starting to listen for. So that when it's easy. So if you sing the E when it's a tonic, it seems very stable. And then when you sing the E as the third of a chord, it seems a little different than when you sing it as the fifth of the chord, and so on. So let's just try that. I'm going to play those chords, and I'd like you to sing La, and we'll go fast. So about 1, 2, 3. So that, again, from drawing on your own experiences, that, for instance, if you're singing a seventh, let's say the E is in the key of F, it's a different tuning as well as when the E is the root. There's a slight difference in the tuning, and getting people to hear that. And it's just difficult. It's more difficult than you think. I mean, I know in the choirs, when we're tuning chords where there's common tones, sometimes the hardest part is that alto or tenor that stays on that same note through a bunch of chord changes, because they're being pulled one way or another. And you just get good practice on that. Let's change now to doo-doo. I mean, it's really tough text, I know. So the second line, the second exercise, just sing that doo, 1, and go. You can really hear it in that, because then you've got some non-harmonic tones that push against that E. Now let's try it. We're acclimating to D major now. So there's our D. Let's go back to La. Maybe sing those D's on La. And I'm sorry, I didn't bring your attention to. Maybe you sang it. I didn't even listen to the D sharp. You didn't get that one little D sharp. Yes. But I was going to say now, but you have that experience with 1 note up there. Now the pitch will change more frequently. So here we go. Let's just stay on do, like that. 1, 2. And doing it again now. So there's a lot of other exercises, kind of fun through this, parallel fifths, tuning those, force, and then equal force, and then they go through the modes, singing solfege. And what I'd like us to do is look at page 5, because we can divide our singers up into 2 groups. And whether you have women or men, or a mixture, they can sing in their own range. And so in exercise 7, you see it says higher and lower voices. Like I said, you can do that with sopranos and altos, or you can have sopranos and tenors all sing the top line. You can have altos and basses all sing the bottom line. So let's have your designation here. So we're going to have the tenors and the sopranos sing the top line. We're going to have the altos and the basses sing the bottom line here. So there's the alto and bass. Here's the tenor. Parallel fifths and trying to keep them in tune over just a pedal, a tonic pedal in the bass or in the piano. So it's trying to hear these things tuning against the tonic. So here we go. So you're on, let's sing on low. I was just playing in tune per bar. Low change. Okay? Ready? And go now. So, and then you could do as I do. I mean, I'm truncating this so that we can get through it quickly. But on 6 and 7, same thing with fourths in 2 parts, and so on and so forth. So, lots of possibilities with that series, I think. And GIA is a really good music publisher to find methodology for any kind of ensemble. They publish sight reading, they publish, and you can go right online to them and look through their stuff. And they still sell those materials and others that are more contemporary, I mean, that have been published in the last couple of years. And then they have some online resources as well. Like that, I don't know if you looked through some of those things that I sent you or that article that had links on them. But if you looked at that website where you can literally put in your parameters online about warm-up exercises, you can do it in 1, 2, 3, 4 voices, and you limit the kinds of skips you want, like nothing larger than a fifth. You choose a key, and then that program will randomize. They don't always sound so good. But you actually can put in parameters in that program where it's, it's pretty good. But you're in charge of it. Those are the kinds of things you can also find at GIA. Okay, and then your little Xerox here. The other thing besides sight reading, we looked at at least a few materials that I used when we had Marcus stand up here and go through his mock audition, and that was various graded, like increasingly difficult sight reading for male voices, or increasingly difficult sight reading for female voices. Rhythmic patterns that were increasingly difficult. Those sorts of things. That's really building on sight reading and rhythmic skills. These things that I'd like to show you now can be used for less for that than for developing balance and an awareness of tuning in 4 parts, or however many parts. Because this Roman numeral 1 exercise, reason it has 1 on it, just because I usually put it in a group with other ones. And, you know, I'm not too concerned, well, I really would be concerned if my concert choir at Idaho State University could not read this in C major. It's completely diatonic. So that's not the purpose for this particular warm-up material. The materials that this person, this Nicholas Palmer, puts together, you can look him up. He also has online a variety of these kinds of warm-ups in various parts, in imitation of styles. Like this is sustained with long lines that would imitate Renaissance music, or like a 21st century motet by Eric Whitacre or something like that. I've got other ones that have really lots of subdivided rhythms, and they move more quickly, and so they're more sophisticated in that way. But that's what they're designed for, is to, okay, if I'm going to sing something, if I'm going to rehearse something with my choir that we want sustained, longer lines, we can work on something like this. So let's have everybody take their part, just soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and we're in C major. The reason I said, as you look at it, the reason I said I'd be concerned about the concert choirs is because there's not a, what is there, an F sharp? There's one, F sharp to the dominant chord, so it's like, whoa. But not that there won't be one mistake, but I would assume that we could probably read this straight through. So on, let's go to da da da, so that you're singing every single note, re-articulating it on da, and so we all start. Alto, tenor, and bass start in their own range on a C on the top, and then sopranos come in on beat or on measure 2. So about 1, 2, 3, sing. Okay, so what are some things that you might choose to work on in this? As, for instance, okay, we've sung through it once. What are some musical goals that you could give your choir on another run through? Yeah.
Had to use Messa di Voce.
Yeah, messa di voce, so that the long pitches go somewhere. We use that term a lot in choir, messa di voce. Is that a term that you often use in instrumental playing? No. And messa di voce means it's from the old style Renaissance that means full measure of the voice. And all it means is that when you see a long note, you crescendo on it slightly, and then you diminuendo on it at the end. So that term is very vocal term, messa di voce. And so another way to put it is that no long note just stays put. No long note just, you don't just sit on. What's another thing that one could use? Yes, phrasing. Phrasing, and what do you mean?
You need to phone a friend.
I don't really know. So anyway, to your phrasing, and phrasing can mean what? That's partly it. But yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to say when we use a term, I think we need to define it a little bit better. So phrasing can be anything from a shape, right? So making shapes within the music. It can be a dynamic structure, it can be a rhythmic structure, or it can be a melodic structure. So yeah, that's correct. I agree with you. But I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up is because that's what we have to define to our students is, okay, we're going to make this kind of a phrase and bring this out, or let's, not bring this out, or maybe articulate the eighth notes a little bit more prominently or less prominent, that kind of thing. What else? What else could this be useful?
You could maybe look at dissonances and resolutions between
Yeah.
parts.
Changes in resolution, and there's something here, folks, that you can hear. There's a suspension festival going on in the last movement, or in the last line. So great way to kind of teach, oh, that's what a suspension is as well, or bringing out the lower note or not bringing out the lower note, and then balance. We could literally have, if we're trying to cultivate just awareness of a part other than their own, let's have the tenors sing out mezzo forte and everybody else sing mezzo piano. Let's have other parts do that. Let's have two parts sing loud. So I just think developing, the reason I'm showing you this is developing other etudes that aren't simply, let's teach them how to sing a third or count, but let's work on making music with the etudes so that when they start reading a new piece, they're already looking for long notes. They're already anticipating that when they see an eighth note, it's going to have some energy. That long notes have subdivision. That and then they really worry about rhythm when they see it subdivided. No, they worry about rhythm from the downbeat. So there's just lots of stuff there that I think we can work on.
Are these exercises public domain?
They are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, Nicholas Palmer, what you do is you look him up and you find the thing, and it's like a one-time purchase. I think a long time ago I purchased this for, I don't know what it was, $5 or something, and I could copy it for eternity.
Yeah.
Look at the other side now. This little exercise has caused grown men to cry and grown women to beat up those grown men. No, this is a lot of fun actually, and sometimes finding something. What I'm talking about now, people at home, is the vaunted polysyllabic study. And what this is just a series of words that require articulation. And the fun part of it is trying to move the tempo around so that people have to try to articulate this at ridiculously fast tempi. So, but it also has a purpose other than just hilarity. But sometimes that's great. I mean, sometimes to get people laughing is really worth a lot. But they are hopefully also learning something. So let's just say this together, okay? So at about 1, 2, 3, 4, really generously slow go. Latitude, longitude, altitude, amplitude, attitude, aptitude, fortitude, gratitude, habitude, interlude, lassitude, magnitude, multitude, platitude, plenitude, pulchritude. Then we go on. Clavichord, harpsichord, monochord, pentachord, capricorn, barleycorn, peppercorn, unicorn, adipose, animose, cellulose, diagnose, bellicose, comatose, grandiose, overdose. Lullaby, magnify, modify, mollify, mortify, multiply, notify, nullify, occupy, signify, simplify, purify, satisfy, alibi, stand by. Okay, so let's give this a shot. We're in F major. Let's stand that and hold our music and really enjoy this. Almost with as much enjoyment as you would have if you were having your senior recital tomorrow. So we go latitude, ready and sing again.
Latitude, longitude, altitude, 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 latitude, interlude, lassitude, magnitude, multitude, latitude, latitude, altitude.
So now let's go faster that part. We can go latitude, longitude,
Latitude, altitude, 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 latitude, interlude, lassitude, magnitude, multitude, latitude, latitude, longitude.
Now use a slight British accent. So latitude, longitude, altitude, 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 fortitude, gratitude. Say fortitude.
Fortitude.
But with more fun. Fortitude.
Fortitude.
Attitude.
Attitude.
Interestitude. No, that's it. Good. Here we go. Latitude, longitude, longitude, good.
Latitude, longitude, altitude, 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 latitude, interlude, lassitude, magnitude, multitude, latitude, latitude, longitude.
Go on.
Clavichord, harpsichord, monochord, pentachord, unicorn, barleycorn, peppercorn, unicorn, bellicose, cellulose, cellulose, diagnose, bellicose, comatose, grandiose, overdose. Lullaby, magnify, modify, mollify, multiply, multiply, notify, nullify, occupy, signify, simplify, purify, satisfy, alibi, stand by.
Good. Let's go. Latitude, longitude, altitude. Wow, that's a whole. 1 and 2 and go.
Latitude, longitude, altitude, 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 interlude, lassitude, magnitude, multitude, latitude, altitude.
Pretty good, pretty good. When I first started using this, I found out that a few people, as we go faster and faster, they just go, or they go, toot, 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 toot. So it just was hilarious in that way too. So now, another way that I sometimes like to use this is that I will assign numbers of the beat to particular parts. So, sopranos, we're going to give you beats 1 and beats 5 only. So you go la, if, al, if, al. So you're going to do that. Altos, you're going to have beats 3 and beats 4. Do la, do that, do that. Okay. And tenors. You're going to have beats 1 and beats 6. Okay? Beats 1 and beats 6. And basses, you're going to have beats 2 and beats 5. Beats 2 and beats 5. So here we go. And go.
Latitude, longitude, altitude,
gonna make it beautiful. Idea is that we're gonna try to sing this in a line, like it's something. Don't just give your
That's
top
a
and
lot.
sign off. Here we go. One, two, three, 4, 5. I'm trying. Go ahead and sing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, excellent. Now we're gonna go faster. And make it sound like it's one line. 1, 2, and ready and go. They're gonna come and take me away. What are you teaching in there? Please be seated. Yeah, but there are lots of different things you can do to make it different every day so that it's not always the same thing. Try to eliminate syllables for the whole choir, add syllables, etc. So it's kind of fun. But so these little resource ideas are kind of the tip of the iceberg, but so what we want to do is we want to cultivate with our choirs at any level the ability to become fluent, the ability to learn skills. We want to cultivate with our choirs listening. We want to cultivate with our choirs thinking and focusing. And that's what that silliness does. It gets people come on, because you have to admit that you had to kind of think about it. You had to like, okay, I got to really try to put my voice in here in the right place. And it's silly, but it does, I think, serve that purpose. So Thursday's class, what I'd like to do is talk to you about, back to the context of rehearsal, I'm going to use only 2 pieces, Shoshone Love Song and We Sing Gloria. So those 2 contrasting pieces. But I want to take you through some exercises that are going to address how do we deal with out of tune singing? Like how do you deal with sharping? How do you deal with flatting in the context of a choir? And what are some possible ways to work around that? What are some techniques to work with a choir on a daily basis to help with rhythmic subdivision? To help with, in the context of a piece of music. Some of you have heard of the term, and some of you have done it with me, count singing, where we sing 1 and a 2 and a T and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a T and a 4 and a 1 and a 2, and every part sings with the numeric counting, subdividing, and that's one technique. Singing staccato, singing legato, those kinds of things, so that we touch on real concepts for working with your kids and with your singers. And that's what I'd kind of like to do in the next two rehearsals with you. You'll serve as the choir, and we'll do the activities and we'll discuss them. And I'm going to ask you to feel some things that are happening vocally with you, and we'll talk about why use this technique, what's it for, and then I'm going to also ask you to ask me some questions that you want to know when you get out there. What do you want to know when you get out into the field? And then we'll talk about those things and maybe do some things. I mentioned on the last iteration of what is going to serve as a syllabus that I want you to do 1 article thing. And so what I'm gonna do is put online, I'm gonna send you five scanned articles from the Coral Journal. And you're gonna pick one of them. And you'll just be able to, and on the final exam, I'll say, which article did you choose? And please answer these questions about that article. And so I'm gonna hand you the one about the changing voice and a couple of other things. And then you can pick what, at this point, you think is the one that interests you the most. Just as a way to say, here's what you can get out of this magazine. and plus you'll have 5 articles scanned that you can just use that are a wide variety of topics. Okay? See ya. Would you please put the stands just back there, because there's no stand holder now. And cheers. Oh, yeah. And would you just come up and make a little line? You can keep the Xerox. This, but I have to have the other one back. That's all this Attitude, platitude. Uh-oh, how do I turn this off?